Hi folks, welcome back on the Salty Ends. Coral reefs. For those who had a chance to dive or snorkel around reefs, they could witness some weird shapes and colors from the corals. And for those that know a bit more about the corals, corals are actually animals. They're like tiny jellyfish living in a stony body. And these jellyfish are catching particles in the ocean to feed. And that's from this observation that CoraBall has been created to catch particles in a washing machine. And Rachael, who is the co-founder of CoraBall, and Brooke, the co-inventor, will talk about it today. So let's check it out. Hi, Brooke. How are you?
All right. Hello. How are you doing?
Good, and you?
I'm doing well.
Hello. Both of you. Okay, so welcome on the Salty Ends. I'm really, really pleased to welcome you. Well, the first question about the CoraBall and about mostly you guys, like you both, why did you start this project? What's the story, your story, and your kind of why behind the CoraBall?
Well, first of all, thank you for having us. We love talking about protecting the ocean and the work that we've been doing, so we appreciate it. So this all started as part of a nonprofit called Rosalia Project for a Clean Ocean. And it's something that my husband and I started now 11 years ago. And Brooke joined us in 2013 as an intern, and now she's full-time with us. So we're fortunate there. That kind of lays the groundwork for the two of us. Now, as far as the CoraBall goes, it was around 2013 that we learned about the problem of microfiber pollution. So this is our clothes breaking. So our clothes are made of heaps, thousands, more than thousands of long filaments, all woven together. And then those are woven together to make textiles, and we get our clothes. And those are vulnerable to breaking, and they can break, it turns out, while we wear them. They can break in the wash, they can break in the dryer. But when this problem sort of first was discovered, it was discovered around 2011 by students at a lab in Plymouth, UK. But it really didn't get a lot of attention, and we learned about it in 2013, and it was just one of those problems that screamed at us. You know, sometimes a problem speaks to you.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. This problem screamed at us. And so what we decided to do was that we set about to try to achieve three things. So we wanted to see if we could stop the problem, because one of the sort of messages that we were getting was, this is going to prove to be a very, very big problem for our public waterways, our oceans, our lakes, our rivers. And we thought this is going to be one of the biggest pollution problems that faces us looking into the future. And so we said, okay, we want to see what we can do to stop it as soon as we can. At the same time, we want to spread the word. We kind of heard about it because we were in the marine debris world. We were already working on microplastic, and we heard about it, but no one was thinking about this. It kind of makes sense though, because if you realize, you know, your clothes do go threadbare, and they get soft and thin, but who ever thought about where the threads that used to be there now are? Like, we never thought about that. And so we wanted to inspire people in industries where we have no expertise. So the textile industry, the people who design clothes, the people who take plastic pellets and turn them into filaments, as well as washing machine makers and wastewater treatment and all sorts. So we wanted to inspire knowledge, or we want to raise awareness to inspire innovation. And the third thing we wanted to do was to contribute scientific information to the very little that existed at the time. And so that's kind of the three-pronged approach we took. On the solution side, that's where the CoraBall came from. And we did everything kind of concurrently. So by right around 2016, early 2016 is when we soft launched our first version. We just called it a microfiber catcher, which is fairly unimaginative. However, since no one knew about the problem really, we thought that keeping it really consistent in the beginning was useful. And yeah, so that was the first time we spoke about that in public, was April 3rd in 2016. And then in June of 2016, we started our first expedition to study microplastic in the wild, or microfiber in the wild. And we studied the entire Hudson River from near you, not that far away from you in Montreal. So Lake Tier of the Clouds, high up in the Adirondacks, all the way down to Ambrose Light, where the Hudson River meets the ocean.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Awesome. So that's about the project. I have a question for both of you. Like, why, like, where this passion is coming from?
Oh, Brooke, why don't you go first on this one?
Well, for me, I grew up loving the ocean, playing on the ocean. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, near Seattle, and my family, we had a sailboat, so I had the privilege of growing up sailing. We lived aboard together as a family and traveled for 2 years and was homeschooled and all that. And then throughout my high school and college experience, I continued learning about ocean science and ocean and problems that the ocean faces, quite frankly. And when I met Rachael in 2013, I was between my freshman and sophomore years. Actually, I met a year before I joined as an intern. And I was like blown away by like, oh my God, you're doing this. You're educating the public. You're cleaning up trash. And you know, I was so inspired by that. It actually helped shape my college career a little bit. And then I was so lucky to be able to join the team officially after I graduated. And then when I learned about this problem of microfiber pollution, like Rachael said, it just kind of screams at us of like, oh my gosh, this is happening. This is happening to all of our clothes, and we had no idea. And that just kind of was like, you know, a kick in the butt to like, you know, let's do everything we can. We have a great team. Let's come up with a solution to make a difference.
Love it.
And as far as I'm concerned, I'm really not graceful on land. I just, Brooke's laughing because she has to spend time with me on land. Okay. Like, I don't fall down a lot. That doesn't happen, but it's not a pretty sight. I mean, just like walking. So, but in the water, on the water, and I include skis because snow is basically water. I am happy and comfortable, and it's always been that way. So on all levels, I was a competitive swimmer and a competitive sailor and a joyful non-competitive skier my entire life. And I grew up in upstate New York on lakes and rivers, but every summer we stayed the whole summer with my grandparents on the Jersey Shore, not the way people know it now, but sort of before it was a party place. And so just the ocean shore in New Jersey. Right. And yeah, so for me, the ocean and any water really is my happy place. And as you know, when you've got a happy place, the inspiration to protect it comes easily.
Yeah, can relate. Totally can relate. Awesome. I really like your passion, both of you. Thank you for sharing that. So you have a bit of the story about CoraBall. Now a bit more like details about the concept, like how does it work? Like it's quite.
So we'll do this together. Yeah,
awesome.
That one too.
Oh, wow! Whoa! I don't have one.
This is Southern Hemisphere CoraBall and Northern Hemisphere CoraBall.
Wow!
So I'll start with the big picture, and then we'll bring Brooke in for the sort of more technical details, because she is the technical designer of the CoraBall. Yeah, you've got 2 out of the 3 designers here on the call, and we've all had sort of different roles. So the 3rd designer is my husband and co-founder of Resolute Project, James. He's got this ability to really like see patterns in the world and to sort of think big. And so James really came up with this sort of idea of like a thing in the wash. We thought about a filter that obviously is the way this needs to go. But the reason we rejected a filter for our team is, remember, our other goals were to raise awareness and start stopping the problem as soon as possible. And we kind of just understood or foresaw that developing a filter itself would take a very long time, and then convincing washing machine manufacturers that it needed to be installed would take even longer. And the chances of doing that all while having it accessible, so affordable,
Sure.
it was going to take a long time. And if you think about it, from the time we started thinking about this in 2013, here we are 9 years or 8 years later, and there are still, like, there are some filters that are that have just been patented to be able to go in washing machines, but that doesn't exist yet, except for the aftermarket version. And so we rejected that. We thought about a bag, but we really wanted to have no interaction with the cleaning mechanism. So we said we have to keep the purpose of a washing machine 100% effective. So we didn't want to mess with that. And so, and that we would go this sort of consumer way. So that was the big picture. So James kind of had that, and he started scribbling onto paper. And the very first idea was this kind of square thing that was supposed to attach to the drum, and it just didn't work. And this is something typical and common and to be expected for development of anything, that the sort of early ideas, you need iteration. You need to figure out what works, but also what doesn't work. And so our first idea really didn't work, and it caused us to stop and have a wholesale rethink of our problem-solving method and what needed to happen. And so what we did was we said, okay, what needs to happen? Let's make this as simple as possible, because saying catch microfiber sort of doesn't make sense. That's still a complicated, that still has extra meaning. We needed to strip it down. And so we stripped it down to, we need to catch small things from moving water. That's what we needed to do. We need to catch teensy tiny little microscopic pieces of fuzz from moving water without stopping the water, which is another problem of just a simple piece of mesh over the exit hose. You would just overflow your washing machines and flood your basement or your apartment. And when we did that, we realized that coral does that. Coral is stuck to a rock, and it catches small bits of plankton from moving water. And so with that in mind, I'll turn it over to the person who made this look so cool. Brooke.
Yes. So Rachel is right. We kind of stopped, reassessed, our overall approach. And when we realized that the coral was doing the job that we were trying to do, we started we have 2 3D printers, and we started looking at different types of coral and how can we take those same design elements of coral and print them from a 3D printer, and then put them in our washing machine setting and see what happens. And very quickly, like within the first, I think, trial, once we had something that didn't break, we saw it was actually catching visible microfibers. And we were like, oh my gosh, this is working. We've got to continue to iterate to see where else we can go. And we realized from doing many loads of test washing that the additional material that we were making our prototypes out of was not going to cut it within the environment of a washing machine. So like Rachel said, we are making our prototypes out of a hard, rigid material to start. And that's kind of what we started with. But what we realized is we needed something softer for the washing machine. And that really helped us propel our design even further by changing the material. And so now the CoraBall is made out of a soft, stretchy rubber.
Nice.
And it bounces around in your washing machine and not against your clothes. And within all its arms, all its tentacles, the arms of the CoraBall, the fibers and hair and all those clumps of fibers as well as loose fibers get caught up in the CoraBall as you're doing your laundry.
Wow, pretty cool, awesome. And so I was wondering about the benefits. We talked about it, but is it cost effectiveness measure? Can you measure anything, or it's for now not really?
So the answer to that is a sort of mostly. So there have been some independent tests of the CoraBall. So these are universities who got their own CoraBalls, did their own testing. It was peer reviewed and published. And for us, that's important because their results actually matched our in-house results that Brooke just described. So the earlier one came up with around 26%. The one that came out last year came out about 31%. And we alone were getting up to 30%. So it's all in the same range. And that's for efficiency. So that's for the percent of fibers that the CoraBall keeps from washing out the drain. Based on, one was based on a fleece blanket and the other was based on a small mixed load of garments. And so as far as the material goes, we have something that is specified to last 5 years. So this is working with material engineers and people who are familiar with this material and considering the conditions in a washing machine, which are pretty rough. It's like hot and cold and centrifugal forces. You're being like flattened and being squished by clothing. So it's a pretty rough environment. But we have something that's durable, which three elements mean a lot to us, that we could make something that's from non-virgin source. So this is not virgin. This is material that would have gone to landfill. So it's called diverted. Then it is durable. So it's spec to last 5 years based on doing 300 washes a year. So that's a lot. There's a lot of households. We don't do 300. I know Brooke doesn't do 300 a year. I mean, that's practically every day. So it should last even longer for most people. And then finally, something that is 100% recyclable, so that when it is time for the CoraBall's end of life, it does not need to go anywhere near a landfill, and it won't even downcycle. That it should be something that's same cycled. So we could take a CoraBall and turn it into another CoraBall. It doesn't have to then go into something that is single use, which is a frequent problem with recycling, is this downcycling where something gets one more use and then it goes to landfill. So so there's another part. So in terms of cost effective, you are buying your 5 years or more up front. The CoraBalls are just under $40 US. So, it's really what, one fancy drink or nice coffee a year when you break it down to protect the ocean, just one a year. You just have to pay for it up front. And recently, the last paper that came out is the part that makes it a little hard to calculate, but in the best possible way. And what that paper figured out is that the CoraBall is helping to reduce shedding in the first place. And what that means is that it's protecting your clothes and making them last longer. Now, we don't have numbers on that, so we couldn't say that if you wash a CoraBall with all your favorite t-shirts and fleeces, they will last X years, but we can say it will help them last longer. So there is a value to that. We don't really know how to give you a number, but we can enthusiastically say that it is both protecting your clothes and the ocean.
That's great. Like, guys, so actually
we were psyched.
Where we can find the CoraBall? Like, is it to order online, or is there places in the world? I don't know what.
That's you, Brooke.
All right, yes. So we do sell CoraBalls online. We have our own site, CoraBall.com. You can learn more about CoraBall, as well as order most places around the world. But we do also have a shop selling CoraBall page. So we have partnered with shops in many, many regions around the world to make CoraBall easier to access and more affordable for people overseas. So you're in Canada, we have several shops in Canada and shop partners in Canada. And there's a total of, I just counted, 12 current countries where we have partner shops.
Nice.
And we're also in talks to bring one more on, but too soon to announce it.
So what are the next steps for CoraBall? Is there next steps?
So let's see, that's a good question.
Okay.
The CoraBall was always meant to be one of a potential series of innovations or products to help people live a lower footprint life.
Yeah.
So to either replace something with a better material, something that can be part of the circular economy, or to reduce the need to buy more things. And that's kind of what our original plan for our trio was. And so Bubby Clip is our second product. This is a sort of current and future project. So these are wooden bag clips. So if you think about it, what are you using to close bags now?
Yeah,
do you have plastic?
Yeah, usually.
Yeah, most people have these kind of cheap plastic. They're virgin plastic. They can only go to landfill. They break easily. They're very unsatisfying. They're very extractive, linear. And really, Brooke realized that there was an opportunity to make a substitution for these kind of not great product, not great for the environment, and not very satisfying to use, to something that's a lot more satisfying to use. And so it can work on something like this. I'm gonna grab, it can work on paper. So like here in New Zealand, there's a lot of great, I shop at a great zero packaging store. So before I found it, I had bought sort of flour, but now I've reused this bag for, I think I filled it up 3 times now. So I sort of bought the bag before I found the other store. And so the Bubby Clip can hold it closed. It's better than using tape or anything. It's made of wood. It's compostable, but honestly, it shouldn't break. And then like, this is a bag, there was like organic local spinach, and I just washed it so we could use it again. Yeah. But you can also, this is a Ziploc, but pretend it's not a Ziploc. And the Bubby Clip works with plastic bags as well. So if it wasn't a Ziploc, I could close the plastic bags that I sort of, you just kind of get, even if you're trying not to, sometimes you end up. So our next project is to give this a little bit of a zhuzh, a little bit of a redesign and make it a little more fun. It's right now we have a kind of minimalist design, and this works for a lot of people, and we'll keep this because it's been really popular. But our next project has to do with the ocean. Can we just tease them that much, Brooke?
That's awesome.
Coming down the line.
Nice.
And as far as CoraBall goes, you know, we continue to learn what makes the CoraBall effective. And we're also trying to keep up with information on how to reduce shedding in the first place.
Yeah, that's,
you know, what we ultimately want is our CoraBalls to not have much to catch and to be the last resort.
Yeah, no, you're right. But that's also bringing awareness, because like you said, not many people knew that a few years ago, and more and more people are knowing this, but still, I think there's a lot of work to do on that. So the question I have right now is, how could we help to bring forward CoraBall? Like, how everybody that's watching, how could we help CoraBall?
So the obvious way is using one and gifting one to people that may need a little bit of help to get one in the first place. So that is the way. The more local you can buy, the better. I don't think we have a shop in Montreal, but we do have some great partners in Canada. So you don't have to deal with international shipping. Exactly. And then, you know, once you are using some strategy to help collect microfibers, we also have some tips on how to produce less in the first place. And so here's some tips. So one is, it sounds obvious, but it's easy to get into the habit of washing all your clothes every time they're worn. But the reality is that not all clothes need to be washed every time they touch yourself. So, you know, we recommend washing clothes that need washing, please, for lots of reasons. You know, we're not advocating to not wash. However, jeans and even a t-shirt that you just wear, like between taking a evening shower and going to bed, you know, that doesn't necessarily, unless you dribble dinner on it, it doesn't necessarily need washing. So wash only when's needed. The next is to do 3/4 to full loads. So this is really interesting. Full loads produce less fiber than small loads. And we think it has to do with the ability in a small load of the clothes to work against each other. When there's a lot of clothes, they still get clean, but they don't rub against each other. Other strategies are to use cool or cold water and to adjust your detergent. So you want to make sure if you're going to move to cold water strategy, make sure you get a detergent that works with cold water strategy. I just got that as a good tip from someone. They said that some people switch but don't switch their detergents and then end up switching back because they think it doesn't work, but it has to do with your detergent. Just learn that. If you realize that your home has hard water, a very, very significant act that will help your hair, your skin, and your clothes is to look at water softening systems. That they can be expensive, but in the end, it'll work out, because hard water is tough on everything, not just you, but your clothes. It really wrecks your clothes. It's incredible. And then when it's time to get a new washing machine, so we don't advocate throwing away a good washer, but when it's time, consider front loaders. We've seen it with our own. In the course of all of this, the washer that came with our house died. So like during testing, basically. And it was a top loader with that center spindle.
Yeah.
And we switched to a front loader based on the sort of science that came out. And it's amazing. So with all the variables the same, so the same household, same clothing, same detergent, same water, same settings, you know, towards cold water and that kind of thing. The amount that I catch now with our front loader in the CoraBall is so much less than with the other machines. So I can tell you that moving to front loaders when you can, it makes a big difference.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, I have time to ask you a question I like to ask, but on more personal side is, what do you wish for the ocean in the future?
My wish for the ocean is that everybody gets the opportunity to experience the ocean. I know some people feel detached from the ocean and the challenges that the ocean faces, but it matters to all of us. And so I hope that everybody gets the chance to go to the ocean, experience the ocean, whether it's from the beach or on a boat, and you get to see the birds and the creatures in the water. I think that would be wonderful for everybody just to experience, and it also just helps connect us to our environment.
So my first wish for the ocean is similar to Brooke's, that everyone gets a chance to love it as much as we do. But because she shared love for the ocean, I will say my wish for the ocean is that people everywhere can see the value in the connectedness in our one big ocean. And you'll hear Brooke and I speak about our ocean in a singular. There are verbal boundaries to help us it would be weird to be like, I'm in the ocean. It's easier to say I'm in the North Atlantic. There are political boundaries, to talk about which part you can go fishing in and stuff. But the reality is we, the collective humanity and creatures, we have one big ocean. And my wish for that one big ocean is that we collectively see the value and the importance, not just as the provider of food, but the provider of air and the provider of joy and the provider of beauty, and the understanding that this planet doesn't exist without a thriving ocean, and it's easy to take for granted. So my wish for the ocean is that we all share in the understanding the value and importance of protecting it.
Thank you, both of you. That was powerful.
Thank you.
Thank
Because
you
like
very
you
much.
said, you're helping. And what I should have said when you asked what can people do about the CoraBall, and it's to do what you're doing. It's to share information about the problem, to talk to people working on the problem, to find your friends who are textile or materials engineers and ask them if they have any ideas to make our clothing more resilient, or your engineering friends who work at a washing machine place or a place that works on dryers, or people who are great at messaging, or educators. Because the more we all know about this problem, the more great creative technical minds we have working on it. And even those little efforts that don't cost anything, like washing bigger loads or with cool water, or methods that cost a little bit, like a CoraBall or an aftermarket filter, they all add up to big impact. And so sort of helping pass what we say as lots of littles make a big. So lots of little problems make a big problem. Lots of little efforts make big positive impact. Sharing that concept also has a big impact.
Will do, for sure. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Brooke, for your time.
Thank you.
All the best. Keep working well.
Back at ya. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the snow.
Hey, thanks, Rachel. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Brooke. Good work.
Bye.
Hi, folks. Welcome on the Salty Hands. Okay, so no. Hi, folks. Welcome on the Salty Hands. Coral reefs. For those that had a chance to dive and snorkel nearby reefs, you could witness different forms of corals, and those who know a bit more, corals are animals that are like tiny jellyfish in a stony bone that will catch particles. Well, using biomimetism, CoraBall had been created to catch particles in our washing machine. Let's discover this great product with Rachael, founder of CoraBall, and Brooke, co-inventor. Let's check it out. Hop, voilà. C'est un truc bizarre. Hein, ça.